from Unschooling, Judy Arnell.
I'll just stay up here and kiss you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to talk about Passion 2. How many of you think kids need school? Hands up, not that I can see your hands. Okay, no they don't. How many of you think kids need education? Hands up. Yes, they do. But not the kind of education system we're giving them right now.
Amen.
Our current education system has really only been around for 150 years. It's the new kid on the block. Before that, parents and children homeschooled and community schooled for thousands of years. But when the Industrial Revolution came about, we shipped all those parents off to factories to work in their assembly line jobs, and there was a big problem. What do you do with the children? Well, they came up with the idea to hire the smartest person in the village, which were the teachers, yay teachers, to teach the children. And that became our model of education for the past 150 years. The problem was, it's an assembly line type of education. You put the kids on one end when they're 5 years old, and they go along to standardization. They learn conformity, they learn obedience, and hopefully you pluck them off at the other end so that they can go to work in the factories. Now, our technological revolution has changed every industry and facet of our lives. It's only been around 15 to 20 years. And it can't permeate that billion-dollar education industry yet. So listen carefully, because this talk will probably be banned from what I tell you. I've been to 2 talks that the government has sponsored called Inspiring Education. One with Dave Hancock when he was Minister of Education, one with Thomas Lucas lately. It was interesting to go, and the main theme out of that was kids need a personalized education, which is great. You know, I think they take all your opinions of those things and run them through the paper shredder on the back of the room, because they let us talk, but to see it at the front lines, it's not very personalized. Every child in grade 10 still has to take Shakespeare.
Yes.
They do. So, what's the problem? The problem is that our graduation rate in Alberta is 70% in 3 years. A child goes for 3 years. Now, some of those kids, when they leave, they trickle back, so you get another 10%. But that's an 80% graduation rate. That means 20% of kids don't finish high school and go on to post-secondary, because now post-secondary is the new high school in our technological world. That's 1 in 5 brains that are not going to go on to post-secondary education. And I think that's a fail. Just imagine your surgeon saying, oh, well, we lose about 20% of them, but that's an acceptable rate. Would you want one of them as your surgeon? I don't think so, right? So, what happens when little Johnny starts school at age 5? I don't know about you, but probably Elisa and Vera, teachers in the crowd, you know, they start out and they're so eager to learn. They're bright-eyed, they're bushy-tailed, they have 50 zillion questions that they want answered. And they're so excited. You can't force the child to learn, and you can't stop them from learning. Their brains, as babies, they're born with 100 billion brain cells that continue firing all through their lives, and they love to learn. And then fast forward 10 years till little Johnny's 15. And what's happened to him then? He's not excited to learn anymore. It's a drag, it's boring, it's irrelevant. He's more interested in partying than polynomials. And it's not a developmental stage of teenagerhood. I'm going to tell you that now. It's something we do to him. We school that love of learning out of him. And that to me is a disgrace. I'll tell you the story of one of my sons. I'm not going to tell you his name because he will kill me if I tell you the story. When he entered kindergarten, he was fascinated with eggs. Don't know where he got it. Yeah, I know. It was that Land Before Time movie.
Oh.
Very popular. He loved eggs. He wanted to know everything about it. So he'd go to school and he'd pester his teacher and he'd say, if I planted an egg, will it grow an egg tree? And his teacher, she was very patient, but she said, I'm sorry, eggs are not in the kindergarten curriculum. You'll learn that in grade 12 biology. Just wait. So, and those are not the eggs I wanted to know. But he was, so for a year, he pestered and pestered her. And then when he wasn't getting his agenda covered in school, he came home and he pestered me, his mom. So like many parents, I began after schooling, where they come home and they sit there blank all day through school, and they come home and they want to know what they really want to know, and you got to help them find it. So after about 2 years, I saw that he stopped asking questions. His love of learning, that better be a kidney. His love of learning was being dulled and shut down, and that really bothered me. So I decided to make the leap. It took me a while to be educated, and homeschooled. So I brought him home and his 2 siblings, and we homeschooled. Now I had a few part-time jobs, babies and toddlers underfoot, and a husband who left me to work out of town. I was a homeschooler that never got around to homeschooling at all. Too busy. And besides, the kids wouldn't listen to me. I'm their mom, right? She's just mom. So, the interesting part was, I let them loose. They followed their passions, they played, they did projects, they traveled, we did field trips, we did fun stuff. They followed their passions. They learned what they needed to learn when they needed it. And the interesting part was I wrote down their learnings, and they pretty well paralleled the Alberta Program of Studies for most of the elementary and junior high years. Anyways, they came to it naturally. My 13-year-old son got a high school physics book and was reading it on the beach for fun. Who does that, right? Right. So, what we were doing is what's called unschooling. Now, unschooling is a little different from homeschooling, and I'll give you an analogy. Let's pretend this table here is a buffet, and on that buffet are all kinds of foods, which is subjects and content in school. And a child is standing next to the buffet with his plate, and he has to pick and choose what to learn. So school decides what from that buffet goes on that child's plate. And when I talk about school, I say the government, the administrators, curriculum developers, the teachers, and the principals. They make the decision what goes on the plate. In homeschooling, it's the parent that decides what goes on that plate. Okay? In unschooling, it's the child that decides what goes on that plate. And if you don't elevate the status of the broccoli, the math, over the status of the chocolate cake, the video games, it's amazing how much kids will pick and choose what they want, the math and the video games. So, in unschooling, kids need 3 things. They need an adult, a teacher. If it's done in a school, they need a teacher or a parent. And that's really important because kids at this stage have all the content at their fingertips in their 4.5-inch screen phones. They have the content. What they need are adults to help them connect the dots and to talk and guide and mentor them. And as Dave Hancock says, they need teachers not to teach, not to be the sage on the stage, but the guide on the side to facilitate their learning and their passions. The other thing kids need are resources, and they need free time. And free time is what we're constantly squeezing out of them in our pursuit of academics, where we say that earlier is better, and more of it is better, but at the detriment to their social, their emotional, and their academic development. Kids need way more free time. And in the pursuit of school, we're eroding that. So people will say, well, if school isn't for academics then, what do kids go to school for? Socialization, find friends. Well, I don't know about you, but 200 kids and one adult supervising on a playground is not what I call socialization. There are 3 institutions in society where people are forced to be there. 1 is mental hospitals, 2 is jail, and 3 is school. And bullying is rampant in all of them. Forced association is not socialization. Kids need to be out in the community with people of all ages, genders, religions, cultures, sexual orientation, and ages. So what happened to that little boy and his egg tree? Well, he, his brother, and his sister, we played for 10 years doing the unschooling thing. When they found their passions, because you can go a mile deep when you're unschooling and 1 inch wide, compared to schools that go a mile wide and 1 inch deep. They found their passions and discovered they needed high school to go on to post-secondary. So first day of school, mom cried, took pictures, grade 10. Everybody else going, who are those people? They finished high school, and in Alberta, the rubber meets the road because we have to write diploma exams that are marked by the government and independent teachers. And the 3 kids wrote 15 diploma exams and scored an average of 78%. Provincial average was 65. They entered university and got the Rutherford scholarships, all of them. And they spent those 10 years following their passions. So we owe it to that 20% of kids to find alternative ways of educating them, to find more about learning styles and implement multiple intelligences in however they learn. And we need to maybe not just look outside the box, but maybe throw the box out and try something new. Because they deserve it. We need their brains. We have big problems to solve in the world, economically, socially, politically, and environmentally. So, school's not for everybody, but education is everywhere. Thank you.